My 33M wife 30F and her family are obsessed with the idea that if her older sister was alive, I would be with her instead. I'm worried about her. How can I help? My wife and I, 33M, have been married for almost 2 years now, and we have a little baby boy. I love my wife more than my own life, and I believe that in any lifetime, I would still find her and fall in love with her. My wife had an older sister, Mia, that passed away at 11 months old from a landslide collapsing on their home. She died before my wife was born. They're the only 2 daughters in a family of boys. When I met her family for the first time, everyone was nice. But it got weird when all they would talk about was their late daughter. My MIL even showed me photo albums of Mia, which took about 2 hours to get through. I never thought anything of it then, and as much as I love getting to know my wife's family, I would be more interested in seeing baby photos of my wife, but I just brushed it off. At dinner, they wouldn't stop talking about how if Mia was alive, she would be smarter or even prettier than my wife. I would look at my wife when they said those things, but she would just agree with them. When we got married, the whole process was filled with Mia would love this, Mia would look great in this, Maya would be more buxom, and wife's name, her grandma. My wife would nod and agree each time they said something like this, that even my mother felt something was wrong. I talked to her before about this, and she said, I know she's barely lived, but I know if she was alive, she would be so beautiful, smart. I know deep down if you met her, you would love her and not me. I had to trick her to get into therapy because something was definitely wrong and maybe she was brainwashed. Life was great for 2 years since we moved 8 hours away from my in-laws for my job, but since my BIL just got engaged, my wife is involved in the planning, and just like they did at our wedding, they wanted to plan a memorial for Mia, which is totally fine, except that they weren't including her grandparents that had recently died, lived full lives, and gave them a hefty amount of inheritance. It wasn't my place, so I remained quiet, but now my wife's starting to say those self-deprecating things about her in comparison to Mia again. During the engagement party, everyone was gushing over my son about how cute he was and that, thank God, he took after me. My wife has brown eyes and I have blue eyes. My boy has got the biggest brown eyes that makes me want to stare into them for hours. Yeah, her mom said, it's a shame he didn't get your eyes though. If this was Mia's child, he would definitely have blue eyes too since hers is blue. It took all of me to not roll my eyes, but it just said, wife's name has the most beautiful eyes I have ever seen, and I thank God every day that my son has them. She took that as an all moment and said, if Mia was alive, I'm sure I would be holding her baby with you now. You would love her very much. I wanted to freaking shout at her, but I always remind myself that people grieve differently. And as long as they need to, but am pissed that she keeps her dead daughter on a pedestal but ignores and belittles her living, breathing one. Edit to add, my wife has been in individual therapy for more than 2 years, but she cut back on some hours after we moved since she felt a lot better. I always tell my wife that I would always choose her and that she deserves even better than me. My wife's 2 younger brothers that were born after Mia's passing also feel weird about all the Mia comments, but often kept quiet about it, when they would defend my wife when they were younger, my MIL would get emotional and go on a hunger strike. Both of my younger BIL were never compared to Mia. My 29M wife 27F cheated, but I'm the father of her baby. Where to go now? I 29M am in the process of divorcing my wife Anna 27F. It's been a long and draining process, and I don't think I'll ever be able to move on from this. I have been with Anna for 7 years now, married for 3, and my New Year's gift was finding out she has been cheating on me. For years, with my own brother, 28 meters. I honestly thought such things were impossible to occur. Apparently not. Strangely, Anna, the woman who had no issues sneaking around with my own brother behind my back for years, literal years, seemed to be shocked by me asking for a divorce. She kept saying we could get past this, and the conviction with which she said she only loved me. Like, if I hadn't seen her act like a cheap prostitute with my brother with my own eyes, I'd never have believed it. It's been like this push and pull for the last months. I don't think I'll ever emotionally recover from this. Anna has repeatedly said she's sorry and that nothing about Blake compared to me, and she really wants to work out and everything else in between. You'd think after sleeping with him for almost 4 years, she'd care a bit about that guy at least. But nope. My brother has taken the I'm in love with her stand. He has apologized but insists he loves her, and that makes it better, I guess. That's basically how my life has been these last few months. I'm not talking to much of my family. I lock myself in to keep Anna away and have to use every bit of restraint I have to not murder my own brother. But because I can't have nice things, now Anna is pregnant. She claimed it was mine, and I did the obvious and called bullshit. She said she used protection as often as possible with Blake, not sure if she thought it made her look better or what, and she was fairly sure it was our baby. My lawyer suggested a DNA test, and I got the results last night. I am the father. I haven't showed Anna the results, and my state is serious about child support and granting the woman half of everything in divorce. It's a no-fault state. I just know Anna will ruin me if I try to leave now. I don't know what to do. I don't want this child at all. Not with her anymore, and I've made it clear she can accept no emotional help from me. If the baby wasn't mine, I'd still be assumed the father on BC, and so financially I was screwed if she decided to keep the baby. Divorce wasn't going to save me. So is there anything I can do at this point? Can therapy help here? Is there any hope of talking sense into Anna? I have made up my mind to get divorced. I can never be around that woman again. How to proceed in this situation? My high school sweetheart never existed. My high school years were amazing. Sports and grades have come to me naturally, but I always struggled with one thing: women. As a senior in high school, I never got to experience the pleasures of having a girlfriend, and I wish it stayed that way. Lana was perfect. Her almond-shaped hazel eyes and her wolf cut were the first to catch my attention. I remember her walking into the classroom and greeting our teacher. She was beautiful. My teacher must have seen me eyeing her down because the seating arrangement he gave her was the seat next to mine. The first words she ever said to me were, "Hey dude." It took me a minute to register, but I eventually responded with a quick hi. From there, we hit it off and became friends. I did my best to get her adjusted to the school and even helped her with schoolwork. Soon, we became class partners and finally broke the ice. Study sessions were where I got to know her more. She had the same energy as I did. She liked my jokes and I liked hers. She told me how she came from another school because of her parents' work and really appreciated my company. As time progressed, we hung out more outside of school. Often we would get food or watch movies, but only as friends. She didn't really talk to too many people, so I appreciated having her all to myself. She eventually became my best friend, and the more we talked, the more I realized how much I liked her. As homecoming was near, we decided to go as a couple. I couldn't believe that she said yes and couldn't wait for the big night. This is where it all went wrong. As the day of homecoming approached, I grew anxious. This was the furthest I've gone with any girl. The first 3 years of high school were lonely. I always went to homecoming with a group of guy friends. Many of them congratulated me on the achievement. My mom was very proud and made sure I was ready. As the day of homecoming arrived, I was ready. My mother rented us a limo and bought me a brand new suit just for the special occasion. I called Lana before heading to her house to pick her up. She told me just how excited she was and vice versa. Finally arriving at her house, I knocked on her door. No response. After a few minutes, I called her. No answer. I decided that she might be in the backyard, so I crossed over through the side like I usually do. After knocking on the back door, I was relieved to hear the voice of Lana's father. "Who is it?" Lana's father opened the door with a confused look. "Can I help you?" he asked. I stated that it was me and I was here to pick Lana up. I told her parents I could pick her up ahead of time, so I was confused at the question. Her father just stared at me like I was crazy. "I think you have the wrong house." Of course, I persisted and asked if this was some sort of joke. I remember seeing another figure walking towards the door. It was Lana's mom. She seemed very relaxed and approached the door stating, "We come have a daughter." I was dumbfounded. After a good minute of arguing and persisting, Lana's father told me to leave. I hesitated, thinking that they might have disapproved of me being their daughter's date, but they grew more and more aggressive. Finally, accepting my fate, I stumbled across the steps as I hurried to the car. I could already feel my eyes tear up as I realized I was stood up. Why did she ghost me? Why did she tell their parents to act like assholes? Did I do something wrong? I had so many questions that were never answered. I live in a relatively small town. Everyone knew each other. So when everyone claimed that this Lana girl never existed, I nearly lost it. After I went home from the incident, I cried to my mom about what happened. She looked very confused and asked me who I was talking about. I was sobbing. I told her it wasn't the time for a joke and I needed someone to talk to, but she continued asking me who I was talking about. Just like Lana's parents, I stood my ground, but the same thing happened. She forgot. It got so bad that I had to pull out my phone and show her a picture of her. Except she wasn't there anymore. Not a single trace of her was left on my phone. Her pictures, videos, and messages were all gone. Our old Instagram posts together were non-existent. Most importantly, her number, which I memorized by heart, never existed. Was I dreaming? The girl that I was talking to for over half a year never existed. Did no one believe me? Or did everyone forget? That was 20 years ago. With no one to talk to or believe in me, I moved on. I later moved for college and did other things with my life. Eventually, I met my wife. She is the love of my life. We have 2 healthy boys and another one on the way. I have a decent job and happy life. My wife, Emily, stays home to take care of the kids since my work is enough to support the whole family. We often go to parenting sessions together. We weren't certain if we would be able to juggle another child, and marriage has been hard, so we decided to learn how to have a balance. It was going great. Until last week. 12 seconds/2023. It's been 2 decades since I last saw her, and that's why I'm writing this diary. I almost forgot about her after all these years. But I saw her. After our parenting session, Emily and I went to get lunch. We ate at one of those restaurants with an outside cafe. The table we sat at was adjacent to the sidewalk which pedestrians walked on. As I waited for Emily to come back from the restroom, I noticed one of the pedestrians at a distance. I wasn't able to immediately recognize her, but I knew she looked familiar. The closer she got, the more I was certain. It was her. It was Lana. She didn't age as much as I did. She looked about 30-ish and still had the same type of haircut and eye color. I couldn't believe my eyes. I don't know why, but I was scared like she was going to do something to me. However, she seemed unaware, like she didn't see me and just kept walking. My eyes followed her as she walked down the street, eventually turning a corner. I wanted to follow her, but my wife was coming back. I thought I was hallucinating, but I was certain it was her. When we went home, I couldn't sleep. For 20 years, everyone I've talked to about Lana never believed me. It got so bad I started to think I made it all up, a way to cope with the loneliness I was facing in high school. But I was certain. I saw her. 1/12/2024. I have been skipping parenting sessions with my wife because of my busy New Year work schedule. My wife has been going alone and tending to the kids a lot more. She's been doing it well. However, she recently talked to me about a new friend she made at the class. Her name is Lana. This is probably insignificant, but I haven't heard that name in a while. What really stirred me was the way my wife described her. I was a bit shaky, but reassured myself it couldn't be her since it's a relatively common name. She will be coming over for dinner in a week, so I will have my suspicions answered soon. 1/19/2024. I don't know where to begin. I sat in the living room scared for the worst, so when my wife opened the door to the sound of Lana greeting us, I nearly passed out. It was like seeing a ghost, a mere dream from 20 years ago. My wife introduced us and quickly sat us down at the dinner table. I remained reserved. I did my best to control my emotions, not speaking for the entire dinner other than a few yes or no's. Lana actually seemed uninterested in me and was getting along with my wife very much. I didn't know how to feel. She was real, right here, in front of me. After bottling my emotions, I finally built up the courage for confrontation. "Do you remember me?" I asked Lana. Both my wife and Lana turned to me confused. "Sorry?" I remember her asking. "In high school, senior year." I asked again, this time a little bit more demanding. Lana looked confused. My wife was surprised. "You knew Lana?" I didn't answer. I never really told anyone about Lana after I moved to college and didn't think it was important to bring up with Emily. I just looked at Lana. I wanted her to say something. Anything. But she didn't, keeping the puzzled look on her face. "You disappeared," I said aggressively. My wife started getting tense, unaware why I was so persistent. Lana also started getting uncomfortable. I could just tell by the way she looked at me. There was no remorse behind those eyes. It's like she forgot or never knew. Either way, the rest of the dinner was extremely uncomfortable. I excused myself from the table and currently I am in my room writing this entry. Lana just left. My wife had a lot of questions. She was mad about how unwelcoming I was, but after explaining everything, she understood. It's been a very long time since I've told someone about the high school incident. My wife was very skeptical at first. Since I had no proof of knowing Lana in high school, she didn't believe me. It was only when I started telling her specific details about Lana that she started believing. I told her about her parents and a few other experiences that I'm not comfortable sharing. Emily told me she wanted to avoid Lana at parenting sessions, which is understandable, so decided to quit the program. Emily was confused. How could someone just disappear who decided to Google her name? There was almost nothing about her online other than a few work-related profiles. We spent 2 hours doing this with no results. My wife told me that it was getting late, so we're giving up for now. 2/3/2024. It's been a month and life has been as usual. We decided to stop going to parenting sessions. Since then, we haven't seen or talked to Lana. Because of that, this will probably be my last entry. I think it's best to leave it that way. We have our theories. My wife thinks she might be a ghost, but I think this is something else. But either way, I'm done worrying. It's been years, and I think it's time to stop thinking about her. This is goodbye for now. 2/25/2024. I can't sleep tonight. I got a few hours in, but I woke up from a bad dream again. This is the second time. I didn't feel like writing an entry the first time since I figured it must have been just a dream, but this one was unusual to say the least. In the dream, I saw my wife. She was far, but I could tell it was her. I started drifting towards it, unable to do anything but watch. She was smiling with her arms wide open, motioning me to come to her. I felt happy and at peace staring into her eyes. It was like when I first met her. I knew she was perfect. She started speaking. "I love you." I wanted to say it back, but couldn't. This was a lucid dream, but I couldn't control myself. She kept saying it. "I love you. I love you. I love you." But then her voice started deforming like she was choking. She kept staring at me. Her hands were bound at her sides and her eyes stayed locked onto mine. I love you, I love you, I love you, she kept going. But I couldn't take it, she was choking on something. Each gasp for air ended with an I love you. A red fluid then started trickling out her mouth. Blood? I didn't know, but now she wasn't talking anymore. Her hands were on her throat, gasping for air. I couldn't do anything. I wanted to wake up for it to end, but I could only watch. It all happened so fast. She was now on the floor, spasming and fighting for her life. I was yelling on the inside, but still unable to move. Her eyes, they were still looking into mine. Her head stayed in place, but her body shook uncontrollably. Until she stopped. I thought she was dead. I wanted to yell, to scream, to see if she's okay. But I couldn't. Her lifeless body rested on the floor. It was pure silence. All I could do was look at her corpse and couldn't take action. I prayed that she would get up,